Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 356 of How Do You Write? I'm Rachael Herron. So glad that you are with me today as we are talking to Katie Baird. And this is a fantastic interview on how to keep believing in yourself and in your book after a hell of a lot of rejection, after the hits, the bad hits just keep coming. How do you keep going? Super inspiring. You're going to love it. So stick around for that. We also talk about showing emotion on the page and showing the ever elusive nonverbal communication, which can be very hard to capture and put on the page. So we talk about that. It's great. Stick around. What's going on around here? Well, I unpacked my last box. So I forgot to finish the word box. It's not a box. I unpacked my last box and it feels so good. The last boxes were my craft stuff, my fiber and fabric and stuff like that, art supplies. And I was super worried that I just didn't have room for them. And then I realized something that was kind of, I don't know, I love getting rid of stuff and I love containing stuff. But I realized that I could just make this decision that I have a certain amount of containment options at my fingertips. I have a few containers. I have one little chest of drawers, like a kind of a small, almost like an end table, but it's got some shelves in it. And then I've got this other little piece that I bought secondhand. And I decided that would contain all of my crafts. And if my yarn and fabric doesn't fit in there, or okay, I lied, one underbed, like soft container where you could, that's where I put some of the fabric. But if it didn't fit into those containers, then I just wouldn't keep them. And it made everything so much easier because I just had to concentrate on what I liked best. The things that have made the cut to come to New Zealand, legit, I love everything I have. Love, 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 love. Like if it went into the container ship on our pallet to come here, I love this cashmere yarn. I love this silk that I bought in New York. However, I haven't used these things in years, and it made me look at what is best, what I liked best. And it was super easy because I could easily tell you that I love this over here and this I love. Do I love it as much as that? No, I do not. It's going. So I got everything put away. I figured out my clothing situation. I have this teeny, teeny, tiny little closet. The tiniest closet is like it's like it's like a pie safe, basically, but in the bedroom. And I realized that I just wear the same clothes all the time anyway. And I am kind of a capsule wardrobe kind of gal. And all of my clothes fit in there or in one under the bed storage box. And that's where I put my colder weather clothes because colder weather is coming. I'm going to be switching those out soon and I'll trade all of my short sleeve merino t-shirts for my long sleeve merino t-shirts. And that's how I'm going to do it. It's awesome. Everything fits. And now I know that I can't bring something into the house without getting rid of something, which is one of those systems that really pleases me and really works for me. So that feels great. Everything I own fits in this house without vastly creative solutions like, how can we put something under the house where it is damp? And I didn't want to do any of that. I don't need that much stuff. I do like stuff. I'm a maximalist with a minimalist heart, but I do love stuff and color and things. I just like everything to be neat and to have a place. So I don't know. I just feel really pleased about that. We have been training the dog like crazy. She is a puppy and she is, I can't remember if I mentioned this, but she is leash reactive to other dogs in a frustrated greeter way. She's never learned how to greet a dog on leash. And so we're going to be working with a trainer on that. But in the meantime, we are training the bejesus out of her. And she is so good. I just went on a long walk with her and she had a slack leash the whole time because I was training her with treats. I will confess to you, this is probably going to upset some people, but there is this amazing like raw dog food diet that people feed their dogs here. if you're squeamish, don't listen for 1 minute. But there are these pests here called possums, and they are not like the possums in the States. Unfortunately, they're even cuter, but they are just vicious predator pests that kill our birds and kill our kiwis, and they need to be eradicated. So they do make them into dog food here, and we're not going to feed that to her as our dog food because we are not made of money, but it makes it really great training treats. So I just did our first walk around the neighborhood using those for the treats to keep her interested in me, walking on a loose leash, sitting and downing and staying and doing the things we've been working on. And boy, was she interested. And we did not run into any dogs. And my goal right now, as we don't have a trainer yet, but I have one in mind and trying to get her over here. I'm just going to avoid dogs on leashes because I don't want to make her interaction more stressful or make it worse. So we are doing a lot of like U-turn training. If we see something, let's do a U-turn. Oh, it's so fun. Let's do that. So she's been great. And let's see what else is going on. Oh, classes are still open, and I think there's one seat left in revision and a few seats left in 90 days to done. So if you're interested in 90 days to done or 90-day revision, go over to rachaelherron.com, click the 4 writers link, and you will find it there. They're shaping up to be amazing classes. So that starts in May. So if you're hearing this in April, you may still have a chance. I'm recording this on April 13th. So that is out there. I did send a writer's email, and I'm saying this because if you're not on my email list of encouragement for writers, it would be awesome if you joined it. You can go to rachaelherron.com/write to get on there. But I wanted to share with you just verbally, really quickly. I sent an email this week about my 7 best tips for getting writing done. And the reason I write emails is to tell y'all the things that I have learned, because I need to remind myself of those things, because I completely forget everything I know all the time, and I have to relearn it. So when I relearn it, when I remind myself of things, I like to tell y'all. So here are my 7 best tips for getting your writing done. These are my 7 best tips today. I might have 7 new best tips next week, but right now they are remembering that, number 1, feelings don't matter. Feelings don't matter. The beginning of your book might feel incredible to write, and the ending might feel just glorious. But as I said in the email, the middle 97% will alternate between feeling like falling out of a hot air balloon basket and sitting in the middle seat of a 37-hour flight between twin toddlers. It doesn't matter how it feels. We simply keep showing up and do a little bit of work. We show up, we do a little bit of work. Number 2, you just need words. You just need words. If you are bored of your work, the answer is to write. If you love your work, write some more. If you want to punch every single word right in its old snozzin', write a few lines before you give up for the rest of the day. You just need words. That's all you need. Words. You'll fix them later. You need words. Number 3, plot and structure matter way less than you think that they do. When we're doing a first draft, when we're doing a revision, we need to think about structure, yes. But some people approach first drafts thinking, I need to get the structure right. Okay, a lot of people approach first drafts thinking that. And some people are very good outliners and can get a pretty solid structure on a first draft. Most of us can't, and we need to put that structure on top of our books later in revision, which to me is one of the most exciting things ever to do. And it doesn't matter. Your book can be a terrible shape that makes no sense and fits into 17 genres. And in revision, you can overlay plot and structure on top of the first draft that you have. I promise. But you have to have that crappy first draft first. And if you're trying to get your book right, but you are not finishing books, then you're trying too hard to get your book right. I will say that again. If you feel like you need to get your book right in order to finish it, you will never finish your book. Unless that is your way and you finish books regularly and the frequency with which you finish books pleases you. But if you're struggling because you don't think your book is right or good enough, or you're screwing it up in some way and you're not finishing your book, then you are just like the majority of us. We have to write the crappy first draft. We have to get through that. That's the only way through for the vast majority of us. You have to do the crappy first draft. And yes, it sucks. But again, feelings don't matter. Number 4, revision solves everything. Always. That's the hill I will happily die on. Revision solves everything, always. Plus, it's super fun. And number 5, don't forget to make a goal. Make any freaking goal, no matter what it is, whether it is a number of words you want to write or number of hours that you want your butt in the chair actually writing. Make a goal. And then at the end of the week, rejigger the goal to bring it closer to what is real. If you set yourself a goal of getting 7 hours in the chair and you don't hit it, and then the next week you set a goal of getting 7 hours in the chair and then you don't hit it again, guess what? You're not going to be very motivated to hit that goal. But if you set yourself a goal of getting 7 hours in the chair and you don't hit it, and the next week, and you look and see what you did more like an hour and a half, then set your goal for 90 minutes, maybe 100 minutes, and see if you can hit that goal. But we need to get our goals closer to the real us, not the fantasy us, because fantasy Rachel will always write 4,000 times more than she thinks she can, than real life Rachel can. And I hate that, but it is true. So I need to continually be rejiggering my goals with real Rachel in mind. So that's number 5. And number 6, don't forget that goals are meant to be moved. They are not meant to be hit. Goals are to put us into motion. They are not the thing we should be going. You can tell yourself you're going for that goal, but really we know you're not. The goal is moving you. We don't care if we hit our goals, because by the time you get to that goal, your end point may not resemble in any way your original goal. And it's better for you to make room to accept that new thing, because it is always better. It is always better, richer, deeper than the original goal that we had. So we don't get stuck on the goal. We make goals, we make big goals, we make big end goals, and then we make smaller week goals, and then we make even smaller daily goals, and we move all of those all the time. And we look up one day and we're in a place we never expected to be, because we could not have been that imaginative to create that kind of goal. So remember that goals are meant to be moved, not to be hit. And number 7, most important, is comfort is overrated. Writing is uncomfortable. And you know what? It does not matter, because it feels amazing to have done it. We never do it perfectly, but we do it. We don't worry about our comfort. We sit down. It doesn't feel great. And then you do it. And then you get to do whatever the heck you want for the rest of the day, because you achieved some of your heart's desire by doing the work. And congratulations to you. So don't forget that comfort is overrated. We don't need it. We just do the work anyway. You can do this. And that, my friends, is the kind of thing that goes out of my email newsletter. So if you're not on it, please go get on it, rachaelherron.com/write. All right. I want to tell you, because the dog is jingling her tags and I should probably take her over to my wife to watch her for a while, I want to tell you about Katie and this interview. Katie Baird is a professor of economics at the University of Washington Tacoma. Her new memoir, Growing Mangoes in the Desert, published by Apprentice House Press, came out in June 2022. She specializes in public economics and public policy, and for 3 years wrote biweekly columns on public affairs for Washington State's second largest newspaper. She has also held an elected office in Pierce County, Washington, where she lives with her husband, Dave, and dog, Kia. So please enjoy this interview with Katie. I know that you will. Please make a few goals that are meant to be moved. Do a little writing. Get back to me on them. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot to thank my new patron, Daphne Garrison. Daphne, thank you. Thank you so much. I wish for you the feeling of aliveness that comes on a crystal clear morning when the whole world is hushed and quiet, just waiting for you to arrive. And there you are. Aren't we lucky? Thank you, Daphne, for supporting me on Patreon. Anyone else, you can go look at that, patreon.com/Rachel. And here we go into the interview with Katie. Enjoy, and happy writing to all of you. Well, I could not be more pleased to welcome you to the show today. Will you please share your name with us and your pronouns?
Yeah, Katie Baird, she, her, hers.
Thank you, Katie. I'm so glad to have you on the show. I have been a fan of your book and your writing for a while now. Do you want to tell a little bit about how we first got in connection?
Yeah, well, thank you for being my fan. You're probably one of my most important fans to have. And I contacted you. It's kind of a roundabout way, but somebody that I knew was connected with you and was getting your regular emails, and she thought very highly of you. And she suggested that I contact you, and I reached out to you and asked you if you'd be willing to read my memoir, draft of my memoir. And as I recall, you were a little bit reluctant to do so, but you did, and that was probably about, I'm guessing, 2 years ago, maybe.
That's what I would guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you were one of the last people to read it before I finally decided to go ahead and do one last push to to try to get it published.
Which I am so glad you did. And listeners, please don't send me your memoirs. I don't have time to read books. And I don't know what led me to say yes to you. And I remember I was really clear with you. I was like, I'm just going to do a little skim, tell you what I think. I have time for a skim,
Right.
but I didn't have time for a skim. I had to go head down into it because it just caught me so
Oh,
fast, so hard. I just fell in love with the book and with you as a character and with the characters in it. And I just loved the book. And it was one of
oh.
those things that I was just so grateful to get to see early. And then I'm so gratified that it has been published by by Apprentice House Press, and it came out in June
Yeah,
2022. So before I get
yeah.
into my normal questions, I would love to ask you, how does it feel to be published, to have the book out there?
Oh, it's a tremendous relief. This book took me 10 years to write. I don't know if I
Yeah.
told you that when you wrote it, but I was definitely out of my element. And I never was sure if it would be published. I mean, it's not a niche book. And so I must have gotten at least 200, maybe 300 rejections.
Oh, I
Um,
love that you say that. That is the stick-to-itiveness that we talk about on this show. You
ah,
just kept going. You kept. How did you maintain
yeah.
your stamina in the face of that rejection?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I think honestly, I just believed in the project, and I just wanted people to know about this community, and in particular, just the I have a message about kind of the unfairness and arbitrariness of life based on where we happen to be born. And I
Mhm.
was, here I am with all this privilege, kind of parachuted into this place where people just don't have, just by virtue of their birth. And so I think that was really, I really wanted to get that out. But I don't know why. Well, part of the reason I kept to it is this was, I have a full-time job. And so there would be long periods when I wouldn't get to it. I think if I was working on it constantly, that would be really hard. But
Yeah.
I would take long breaks from it, and I would come back to it. And every time I come back to it, I would see it differently.
Tell
And
us
so there was some renewal going on in there.
and that was important. And that was important. And now I'm remembering why I said yes, because your book is
I know why.
about being in the Peace Corps. Is that
Right.
where you're going? Yeah. And my dad was in
And
the
it was
Peace
your
Corps,
dad.
first
Yes, he was
wave
in.
into Western Samoa. Yeah, in
Right.
1960, I want to say 1967 or 68. And so I was raised a
Ah,
Peace Corps kid and going to the Peace Corps picnics and I saw this. So will you tell us a little bit about the book Growing Mangoes in the Desert and give us your elevator pitch for it. What's it about?
mm, elevator pitch. Oh, that's tough. I mean, it is basically partly about me being parachuted into this village in Mauritania, a small village. Um, and it's about my adaptation to the village. And it's about my partnership with somebody who was sort of the de facto village chief. and the partnership that we formed and the way that we complemented each other. He had all these ideas, great ideas. He was extremely astute in understanding the problems of the village. And so I was the one who would help him realize his projects that he had, his help him seek solutions to the problems that he was very articulate at being able to identify. And they were really kind of heartbreaking problems because they were life and death. And yet, you know, when he would explain them to me and when I came to understand them, they weren't a matter of a lot of resources to fix or to help with. You know, somebody dies of mosquitoes, well, because of a mosquito bite and malaria. Well, you know, you can get mosquito nets to string up that aren't really that expensive.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, you know. So it's about our partnership, and it's about a particular place in Africa and the way that place, the history, the religion, the culture, the environment, the rains shape that sense of place that is home to so many people.
You have brought up two of the three things that I don't remember books very well, but I remember your book really well. Two of the three things that really stuck with me, which was the sense of place and that partnership, but also the thing that really moved me was just watching you change as a character in the book. You grow into
thank you.
some really hard-won knowledge, I think. And I just think you did such a gorgeous job with that. And people should read this book. So can you tell us about your writing process? What did it look like while you were writing this book? And I would also like to know if you're still writing, or is that the book and it was done and you're done? Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that question, because it assumes that I have a process. For me, this podcast, it might be better if the title was how do you not write rather than how do you write. I don't really have a process. I have a real challenge with writing. I love to multitask, and multitask means I can get a lot of things done, but there are some things that I can't get done, and writing is really hard when you're multitasking, as is cooking dinner, by the way. So cooking dinner and writing is really a challenge for me to kind of sort of quiet my brain and get in a space where I'm not distracted. So one thing that I don't have any tricks, like how do I get myself into that? Because more often I'm looking for ways to distract myself because I don't want to do the hard work.
Heck yeah.
And, you know, there are things that I can do that I can cross off my list pretty quickly. Writing a chapter is not one, but I often find it really helpful actually to go out for walks with my dog, and, you know, to take off my earbuds and, you know, consciously leave those at home. I'm not going to listen to a podcast. I'm not going to call my mom. I'm just going to go for a walk. And sometimes I'll actually have some problems that I'm trying to solve. Like I've got two stories and I'm trying to figure out how to tie them together. Or I'm trying to figure out how to end one, or I'm trying to figure out how to, you know, at the end of a chapter, kind of put a bow tie on that chapter. Just thinking about this memoir, I had all these stories that I had, you know, like we all have all these stories. Our life is all these stories, trying to figure out how to tie them together and figure out what is the kind of uber story here that I want to tell. And that's kind of what ties it all together. And for me, that was the hardest thing of trying to figure out what is the message that I want to get, and therefore, how am I tying all these stories together? And sometimes just going out on walks and thinking about it and kind of clearing my mind would be helpful. Sometimes those walks would be kind of long. But yeah, and then the other thing was when I get back from a walk, I would have to go immediately to the computer, because I would just lose that. I'd lose that that sense of clarity of how to craft a particular chapter, for example.
That reflects my experience too. And I'm always frustrated when people say, well, if you've had a great idea, don't worry about remembering it because it'll come back later. It won't come back later. It's not gonna come back later unless I catch it personally. Yeah. So what is your biggest challenge when it comes to writing?
My biggest challenge, I would say, is that I do like to multitask. I love to cross things off my to-do list. I love to see concrete progress. So like right now I'm cleaning my basement after, I don't know, 10, 15 years. And, just to see some of the clutter start to disappear, that motivates me to okay, I can see the end.
Yeah.
And for writing, it's not like that. I'd write and I'd come back and I'd say, this is crap. I don't like it. And so there was so much, like I said, it took 10 years. For me, the challenge is not seeing that progress and not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Unlike my basement, I can't say, okay, I can see another 20 hours doing what I did today and I'll be done.
Yes. Oh yes, I
And
resonate with
for
this
me,
through my soul. I'm always dealing with that with books. A lot of times I'll break books down, sometimes to 1,000 word goals, and just check those off because I have to be able to check something off. I really do. What is your
yeah.
biggest joy when it comes to writing?
My biggest joy is, the concrete obviously is seeing it in print.
Yeah.
Was such a joy.
Tell me about that moment when you first held it in your hands.
It was a little bit of disbelief, but also just a real sense of relief that it was over and I did it. I've finally did it, and I wasn't going to go edit it anymore.
Yes, you never ever have to do it again.
Yeah. Yes. Honestly, over 10 years, I rewrote that story 100 times at least, maybe even 200 times. But other than that, that's the joy every author has. Unless you've published so many times and you forget, the new book comes and you don't even open it, the other joy I have, honestly, is when people tell me that they read my book and it brought them to tears. And that's kind of a weird thing to find joy about, that you brought somebody to tears. But a real objective of mine was to bring a human face to this part of the world and to get people to know the people that I came to love. And so when people tell me that they were brought to tears, it tells me that I succeeded in making these people into people that they cared about. And so that always brings real happiness, that I succeeded in people coming to know the people in my story and caring for them as human beings.
And that you did that with the power of your words and just by telling your story. I just think that is magical. All right. So you may have given already a craft tip in the going for a walk and then capturing the idea when we land back at the page. But do you have another craft tip of any sort to share with us?
I have a craft strip. Yes, I do.
Excellent.
And it's Rachael Herron.
Oh dear.
No, seriously. When I brought my story to you, it was at one of those, maybe 3 critical parts, and you were just so encouraging and so wanting to see this in print in a way that I really felt was authentic. And
Oh yeah.
I had a lot of different editors along the way of people who read it. And I was never quite sure how authentic their feedback was, or I should say, I didn't know what they thought about the book. I got their editing, but I didn't know what they really thought about the book. And oftentimes they were a little bit evasive, leaving me unsure if they even thought this was publishable. And you were different in that regard. And so, my craft tip is to, get in touch with Rachael Herron and use her services. But I have another one. It's not,
Good.
and
Oh,
this is
good.
actually channeling you, because your craft tip to me was to get the book, The Emotion Thesaurus.
Oh
I don't know if you remember that, but you
I
told
do.
me,
Yeah.
and that was terrific. It was terrific in that, it was a really succinct piece of advice. But once I got it and started, going back and reading it, I think you might have pointed to a couple of passages. It really allowed me to see my writing in a different, way, which is usually what you need. You get to these roadblocks and you need someone to help you see your writing in a different way. And that tip was really, really helpful for me, because this is a way, this book, The Source, is about different ways of communicating what people are experiencing without you telling the author, without you using your words. Oh, they were feeling depressed or whatever, but to have them express it, but not through words, but through mannerisms, or their nostrils are flaring,
The
or
visceral
whatever it is.
bodily expression.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. And I also realized, as I was thinking about that, I was realizing that when I was in this village, I was in the village of Sive, Mauritania. Pular was the language everybody spoke. They didn't speak English. Hardly anybody spoke French. And by the time I left, I probably understood a half, 2/3 of what was said. But most of the time I was there, I did not understand what people were saying. And I realized that so much of what I understood came through nonverbal communication, that I could pick up, unconsciously. I was picking up a lot of what people were saying without even knowing it, through all these nonverbal ways that people communicate. And just remembering that made me think, okay, as the author, your job is kind of the same thing,
Yes.
is to communicate what people are saying, but don't just always, use direct, this is what they were experiencing, but to use those other, as you say, visceral.
And then we get to
So,
play with that. We get to show their bodies saying one thing and their words saying another. And the reason why I love that tip so much is that it's a tip that somebody gave me. I don't remember who it was, long ago. And it really took my writing to the next level. And for those listening who didn't catch it, it is The Emotion Thesaurus by Angela Ackerman and Becca Puglisi, and just pick it up. I have a print copy and a copy for my computer on Kindle that I just open up sometimes when I'm working, and I'll just open the page, and she's feeling ashamed right now. What does shame look like in the body when you're feeling it, or when you're seeing it in somebody else? So I love that. I love that helped. I'm so glad.
yeah.
I'm so glad. Okay, this is an optional question. Would you like to share with us your most mortifying moment as a writer that you have survived?
Well, there was the time I wrote an email and sent it out to the entire student body, and it was not intended for the whole. So I don't think that's what you had in mind, but
Oh, that's a
I'm
good one, though.
surprised. I'm surprised I kept my job after that, because I was complaining about something.
Oh,
And
and the heart attack you have when you realize what has happened.
I did. I immediately called the tech people and asked them, was there any way to get an email off the server? And he says, I don't think so. Once
No.
it ends up. And so I said, well, KG, it's been nice to know you, but if you don't see me around anymore, that's why.
You poor thing.
Yeah. So I don't think that's what you had in mind, but yeah, that happened like 15 years ago, and it's still I still think about it. I don't know if this wasn't so much mortifying. Well, it was kind of mortifying. One editor I got back must have been about 5 years ago. I had someone edit my book, and I found I didn't know how to use a semicolon.
That's a good one.
I thought I knew how to use a semicolon, but a lot of my semicolons they took out, and then they added all these semicolons. So I now try desperately not to use a semicolon, because I realize I'm not sure I use it correctly.
I have one editor who I love, who I've worked with for over the years, and she refuses to let a semicolon go into a book. She'll just say, make it into 2 sentences, use an M dash, do anything you can to avoid a semicolon. And I am not telling people to avoid semicolons, because many people use them beautifully. I know that I don't, and perhaps you don't. And that is fine. I love that. Can you share with us what the kindest thing anyone has ever done for you is in your writing career?
The kindest thing. Well, you have been very kind to me, but I know this isn't,
Thank you. Let's do
I love
something else.
I had a lot of friends who read drafts, and that's really kind for people to just to set aside their own life to participate in your project and to help you with it.
Yeah.
So I must have had a good dozen people who helped me along the way, and I don't think I could have written this without their taking the time and giving me their professional sense, and also their encouragement.
Yeah, that's what helped keep you going.
It did.
We need
It
that.
definitely did. Yeah.
And
definitely did.
What's the kindest thing you've ever done for yourself as a writer?
Kindest thing I've ever done for myself. Well, I mean, I kept at this project, and I don't know if that was being kind to myself, but there was somewhere in me, I had a belief that I could finally, get this in print. I could finish this project. And in some ways that was some kind of kindness in somehow I believed that I would be able to do this.
Yes. I think that's such a great kindness. It really is. And I feel like there are a lot of people who don't allow themselves that kindness and put the book away and think, no, it's too hard. I can't do it, or I'm not worthy, or it's not good enough. And it is such a kindness to tell ourselves, no, this story is worthy of being told, and I am the one to tell it. And yeah, that's gorgeous. Thank you.
Yeah.
Speaking of awesome books, what is the best book that you have read recently, and why did you love it?
Well, my favorite book is always the one I'm reading, it seems like. And right now I'm almost done with a biography of Robert Oppenheimer.
Oh, interesting.
It's a Pulitzer Prizer. It's called American Prometheus, I think is the name of it, by a couple of authors, and I don't remember their names, Kai Smith and somebody else. And it's he's sometimes referred to as the father of the atomic bomb, and it's just a fascinating portrayal of the science and the politics around our development of the atomic bomb, and in the 1940s. But it's a biography of this man, Robert Oppenheimer, who directed the Manhattan Project, and it's just he is a fascinating man. He's brilliant. He's one of these people who, no matter what he does, he will excel at it. whether it's, figuring out, how to build a bomb, whether it, he could be a concert pianist, he could, just about anything he wanted to set his mind to, he could do. And he set his mind to running this Manhattan Project, and he did it. But it's also a tragedy. In fact, I think that's there's tragedy in the subtitle someplace. Because the one thing that he was not able to master, and I think he thought he did, was American politics and national politics. And so when he kind of turned against the development of bomb and atomic energy and fear of an arms race, I think he thought he had mastered national politics, but he hadn't. And a lot of people turned on him because they didn't want his voice in the conversation. And because he was anti nuclear development, and the political system kind of crushed him and devastated, destroyed his career as a result of it. And so I don't know, it's just a fascinating story about this brilliant man who's also, in the end, you find out he's very human because he has his shortcomings. And unfortunately, his shortcomings ended up destroying him because of his just because of various circumstances that he was trying to tackle Washington, D.C. and get his voice there, and people ended up silencing him.
Oh, you make me want to read this. And it's all, and again, it comes down to character and building character and portraying that on the page. The facts are the facts. What happened. Yeah. But what's interesting is the character behind it. So I'm going to have to pick that up. Will you, as we wrap this up, will you please tell us where you can be found and where Growing Mangoes in the Desert can be found? All of that.
So my book, Growing Mangoes in the Desert, could be found on any place that books are sold. Amazon, Choice, Barnes and Noble, and so forth. Where I can be found in Tacoma, Washington. I'm pretty old-fashioned. I don't have much virtual presence.
Good for you.
So Facebook, I have a website where if you go to my website, you will find dozens and dozens and dozens of pictures from that illustrate stories from the book. But otherwise, I'm pretty old-fashioned. You just have to come track me down. I'm here in Tacoma, Washington.
That's wonderful, Katie. I'm so glad that we are connected and that I got to read your beautiful book and that it was picked up by a publisher and published, and it is out there for people to read. And I'm really, really proud of you. Good job.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you.
And thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure.